Hello, thank you for joining me for this talk, Mutable Atmospheres, a lens in to look out. My name is Chelsea Limbird, and I'm adjunct assistant faculty in the Department of Interior Design in the School of Design at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. I will be presenting work that was part of an intensive online design studio in the summer of 2020. The studio is part of a larger arc of research focusing on narrative structures and time-based representation. Often, in pedagogical frameworks of spatial design projects, the outcome of the process is an experience, understood as a constructed environment. This environment is made of materials. It is understood through the senses and communicated to us through our own visceral translation of the world. Perception intertwines lived and imagined paradigms. In a way, the proposals and intentions for space are both a material imagination of life with weight, temperature, gravity, and presence, and, in the same moment, a dreamed parallel of collected memories, a proposal for a future that is yet to be. I pause here to question the essence of the start of the process. To achieve these atmospheric ends, could the beginning of the project also be atmospheres? Could we study deeply the experience of space through the senses, through the caverns of the memory, to then generate the project and proposal of experience? In this presentation, I will present the question investigated by a group of students ranging in disciplines and backgrounds in the space and time of the pandemic, focusing on their own individual atmospheres. Looking into their own spaces, lives, routines, rhythms, cultures, and landscapes, students worked through a process of questioning the interior and spatial relationships of time and distance by mapping the personal, individual spaces and sequences of the everyday. While studying languages or representational tools of time-based media and presentation techniques of film, stop-motion animation, and photographic seriality, students will develop their own work to map and understand time, distance, and sense realities, dreams and material imaginations of lived experience. In parallel, they will cultivate a tool in order to test and communicate proposals for imagined futures. We begin by looking in. We observe ourselves, our days, our memories, and are present in both physical and mediated spaces. We absorb and collect a range of atmospheres. This initial collection reveals immense diversity in the interpretation of atmosphere itself, as well as how we notice and document these qualities. Scaffolded by resources including Peter Zuthar's lecture Atmospheres and Chris Marker's film Sans Soleil, students were encouraged to parallel narratives, literary and or poetic, understanding beyond the simple visual language. What is the story behind this? In this process, images that are deeply personal also become universal through a sharing of histories. A texture in a bathroom window threads through a conversation of early spring and the first release of a closed winter home. An empty hallway and a single word recalls specific muted echoes of our own footsteps, reminding us twice of our own solitude. Some students paralleled images with translations in different media, extracting, most often, color and a sense of the light to present a mood or an emotion of space. In some instances, we were able to assimilate moments with our own experience and memory. In others, the memory is specific enough, detailed enough, that it becomes a universal truth. Still, other atmospheres become translations of sheer emotion, particular stresses, tensions, and weights. The value in this process is the beginning practice not only of observation and documentation, but also a communicating and translating of a larger story, how telling, transforming, and translating is the proposal and practice of empathy itself. In some of the work, we could feel the presence and passage of time. Abstraction tells more than the words. It recalls the heart beating, the moment of weightlessness, something between joy and fear. There were shared moments of awe, pure moments of pause and wonder, encounters of discomfort, disjointed stories, and new questions to the balance of memory. Most often, an analysis and synthesis of an experience considered as a whole, then reconfigured, retold, and recomposed when some new truth was revealed. Here, the experience of exiting a metro station in an unknown neighborhood, or the pedestrian experience of moving through the city, in and out of light, under overpasses, understanding distance as a point of view, framed by the constructs of the auditory environment. We add time and sequence to the narrative of the senses. Experience beyond the still image enters the realm of time-based representation. The layers afforded here open and deepen the conversation. A fragmented look into a construction site becomes a layered questioning of its jungle origins and concrete future. Self-observation in isolation becomes the subject and content of narrative and mood, personifying the space and unifying the viewer.
世界卫生组织16日公布的最新数据显示，中国野外新冠肺炎确诊病例达到86434例。世卫组织每日疫情报告显示，截至欧洲中部时间16日10时，北京时间16日17时，据国家卫健委官方微博消息，目前全国医疗卫生机构核酸检测能力由3月份的1万人份内市提升到378万人份内市，提高了200%。
Material approaches metaphor of situation and mood. Posture is atmosphere. Here, the abstract atmosphere of the day took on a life. In some translations, the thinking through the original atmospheres led the inspiration for the film.
You cross a sea of clouds, observing this entirely strange place. You gaze some layer further and deeper to sense the temperature and humidity. You watch the people who live through it to see how they spend their 24 hours. Some smile at you and some look down and focus on their palm.
Today, she's been run. Miss. All right. Well, hello, legends. More to the grandest comedy hit of the year. She's just from a cat window. The Grand Budapest Hotel.
The lights of the city turns into electricity. Vertical, a rainbow. Tall, unattainable. Seem to flash, then abruptly stops. But if you focus hard enough, it can stop whenever you want. You can imagine how to innocent way 24 hours. Have a dream that loses time, wholly material and without any hesitation. You can seize every break in time. Maybe it's not allowed. Most importantly, time stops there. Something substantial in order to get the attention of the clubs. Why? Because they're exclusive and fun.
It always seems so sad. Maybe they need someone to talk to.
A faceless man in an empty room.
You can feel the breath and the heartbeats, and then the world will move as you wish. You lean on the strength of your life, from the morning to the afternoon, work from midnight to dusk. The setting sun might as well as be the rising sun. Well, I know. In a day, you can't have a single second more than it's 24 hours. Maybe inside your body, furtively, a change has taken place.
The focus shifts away from the self for a period of research here and looking into an adaptive reuse case study. Questions relate use, conditions, and atmospheric qualities before and after adaptation. Finding the concept for adaptation was essential, understanding this language of invasion as it embodies experience in a new program overtaking the old transcends the transformation of the physical space. Definitions of atmosphere were becoming intertwined conceptually and experientially, understood with the body and inside the mind. The case studies provided a foundation to understand the potential of emptiness, spaces forgotten or left behind in the wake of the pandemic. Recent municipal mandates that homogenize particular neighborhoods and street life for one of the students focused her proposal on a particular artery of the neighborhood and proposed color, infusing joy and inspiration in everyday life. She dreamed of the gray, endlessly similar facades that she passed, coming to life with different shops and signage like invitations, creating a community. And at night, lit and safe because of continuous activity and presence of friends, businesses along the path. Every street had become the same. She longed for inspiration, diversity, difference, and community, a sense of life and activity. From the start, another student knew she appreciated certain atmospheres of light, music, color, shared voices, and celebration. She translated this to the experience of live music and found a site abandoned by the necessary distancing and precautions of the pandemic. Her ideas translated from her own experiences into a sequence defined by light, color, darkness and void, warmth and cool pockets of rest. Ghost-like interactions in and out and between spaces where shadows and sound interact through time. Elements interweave light and dark, busy and quiet. In defense of ecologies degraded due to modernization, this project looks specifically at the sustainability of bird life and habitats in relationship to an airport in China. The student identified where the bird population was a problem in relationship to flight patterns of planes. Her proposal intended for humans to experience the emotional impacts a bird might feel when struck by a plane. Incorporating disorientation, imbalance, and isolation, the form of the proposal, a museum, takes on these formally, obscuring sight lines in a zigzagging path to the final destination. A wall reaching to the sky alters the takeoff and landing patterns of the planes and also the flight patterns of the birds. The atmosphere within the museum preserves the experience so it is never forgotten nor repeated. In the last project I will share with you, a student questions distance and celebrates the spaces of watching films, cinema. She conflates the space of screening a film with the breadth of a community garden, diverse and divided, unwittingly offering chance, change, and surprise with each turn, with each season. Separated but connected through the film, the light, and the material holding each of us. There is some semblance of a reality we once knew. We are brought together by the story, by a new memory intertwined with memories and storylines of days and films before. Gathering this atmosphere as something new, living in this memory as it is passing. The work here received only the beginning to discovering the possibilities of investigating the role of time-based media as integral to the process of a studio design project. Because the students used film through the process, they were continuously thinking in space and time, in constant dialogue with lived experience, proposing interaction, movement, and sensory immersion. The communication of space and the design of space were in simultaneous production. In a sense, the atmosphere was the presentation and the project. It was the process and the product. There was no moment that indicated a beginning of the final production, as the arc of the course was the arc of the project's thinking, and in its best form, an arc of the evolution of understanding. Thank you.